A car that costs $4,500 outsold Tesla's Model 3 in China by more than 3 to 1 in 2021. That's not a concept. That's not a crowdfunding campaign. That's 1.1 million units rolling off production lines. The Wuling Hongguang Mini EV. It costs less than the replacement battery pack for a Tesla Model Y. And here's the part that breaks the story wide open. 44% of the company that built it is owned by General Motors, the same General Motors that killed the EV1. The same GM that closed cheap EV production in the United States and never put this car on sale there. Not once. This is the moment the West lost the electric vehicle race, and it happened under an American logo that most Americans have never heard of. A complete car, 4 wheels, seats, battery, motor, body, costs $4,500. For context, the average new car in the United States costs $48,000. A Tesla Model 3 starts at $40,000. In 2021, the Wuling Hongguang Mini EV became the best-selling electric vehicle in China, moving more units than any Tesla, any BYD, any NIO. If General Motors owns 44% of the company that built this, why has no American ever been able to buy one? Why did GM bury this in China while shutting down the Chevy Bolt in America? And how do you build an entire car for the price of a luxury smartphone? The West spent the last decade believing the electric car race was about range, acceleration, and software. Whoever built the 400-mile battery won. Whoever cracked autonomous driving won. While Detroit and Palo Alto poured billions into that vision, a company in Liuzhou, China asked a different question. What does the person who rides a scooter to work actually need? They need 75 miles to get across town. They need a roof when it rains. They need a price that doesn't require a loan. In 2020, SAIC-GM-Wuling, the joint venture between General Motors, SAIC Motor, and Liuzhou Wuling Motors, decided to build exactly that. Not a cheaper Tesla, something else entirely. The Wuling Hongguang Mini EV is 2.9 meters long. It seats 4 people. The base version has no airbags, no anti-lock brakes, no backup camera. The battery is a 9.3 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate pack. A Tesla Model 3 standard range has a 60 kilowatt-hour battery. Top speed, 100 kilometers per hour. Range, 120 kilometers on a single charge, 75 miles. Charging time, 9 hours on a standard wall outlet. It weighs 665 kilograms. A Model 3 weighs over 1,800 kilograms. Every single decision was made in service of one number: cost. The engineering was about subtraction. Wuling asked, what can we remove and still have a car that someone will buy? The body panels are stamped steel. The suspension is basic McPherson struts. The motor is a 20 kilowatt rear-mounted unit, 27 horsepower. A Honda Civic has 158 horsepower. The interior is hard plastic. No soft-touch materials. The instrument cluster is a single small LCD screen showing speed and battery level. The entire product philosophy is different from any Western automaker. July 2020, the Wuling Hongguang Mini EV goes on sale in China. Price, 28,800 yuan, $4,460 at 2020 exchange rates. Target market, people making their first step up from a scooter or a used gas car. Month 1, 15,000 units sold. Month 2, 20,000. By September, Wuling couldn't keep up with demand. Dealers had waiting lists. The factory ran 3 shifts. November 2020, 33,094 units. That single month, the Wuling Hongguang Mini EV outsold the Tesla Model 3 in China. Full year 2021 numbers. Wuling Hongguang Mini EV sales in China, 426,452 units. Tesla Model 3 sales in China for 2021, 150,890 units. That's 2.8 to 1. Globally, the Wuling sold 1.1 million total units from launch through 2022. For 2021, it was the best-selling electric vehicle in the world by volume. A $4,500 car with 75 miles of range and no airbags outsold every Tesla, every BYD, every Volkswagen ID, every Nissan Leaf on the planet. The average Wuling buyer had never owned a car before. They weren't cross-shopping Teslas. They were choosing between this and a scooter. SAIC-GM-Wuling is a 3-way joint venture. SAIC Motor holds 50.1%. Liuzhou Wuling Motors holds 5.9%. General Motors holds 44%. That's near majority ownership. And yet, as of today, You cannot buy a Wuling Hongguang Mini EV in the United States, Europe, Canada, or Australia. GM sells Chevrolet Bolts and Cadillac Lyrics and GMC Hummer EVs to Americans. It sells a $4,500 electric car to Chinese buyers, and it never offered the American market the choice. GM explains, this is regulatory. The Wuling doesn't meet US federal safety standards. No airbags, crash structure wouldn't pass NHTSA testing. But GM could have designed a version that met those standards. Add side airbags, $200 per vehicle. Reinforce the A-pillars, $150. Install a backup camera and parking sensors, $100. Total cost to make the car US legal would add maybe $1,000. Sell it for $6,500. It would still undercut every electric vehicle in America by $20,000. GM chose not to. The reason isn't engineering, it's strategy. Selling a $6,500 electric car would cannibalize the $35,000 Bolt and $80,000 Hummer EV. In 2020, the same year Wuling launched the Mini EV, GM announced it would phase out the Chevrolet Spark, the cheapest gas car in its US lineup, priced at $14,000. In 2022, GM discontinued the Bolt EV, the only sub-$30,000 electric car it sold in America. GM was exiting the affordable car market entirely. While doing that in the United States, it was printing money in China selling cars that cost less than an iPhone. Every Wuling Hongguang Mini EV needed a battery. Because Wuling chose lithium iron phosphate chemistry instead of nickel-cobalt batteries, they created massive demand for LFP cells. The main supplier, CATL, the Chinese battery giant. By 2022, CATL was the largest battery maker on Earth, and LFP had become the dominant chemistry in China. By 2023, an LFP battery pack cost $80 per kilowatt hour. A nickel-cobalt pack cost $140. That cost advantage is why a BYD Seagull sells for $10,000 and a Chevy Bolt costs $27,000. The Wuling didn't just sell cars, it built the supply chain that made the next generation of cheap EVs possible. Before the Wuling, electric cars in China were aspirational products. The Wuling flipped that. It made electric a default, not a flex. The young professional making $15,000 a year could afford an EV. The retiree could go electric. The college student could plug in at home. An entire generation of Chinese drivers entered the EV ecosystem at the bottom, not the top. The 2023 buyer who started with a $4,500 Wuling traded up to a $12,000 BYD Dolphin. That's the ladder the West never built. In 2024, 40% of all new cars sold in China are electric. In the United States, it's 7%. Why didn't the West build the $5,000 electric car? Western automakers are public companies answerable to quarterly earnings. A $5,000 car has a profit margin of maybe $300. A $50,000 SUV has a margin of $8,000. The CFO kills the cheap car every time. SAIC-GM-Wuling, optimized for volume, supply chain leverage, and ecosystem lock-in. Lose money on the car, make it back on the scale and downstream effects. It's the Amazon playbook applied to hardware. Meanwhile, GM was telling American buyers they didn't want small, cheap cars, while proving in China that they absolutely did. In 2022, Wuling launched the Air EV, priced at $6,400. In 2023, they launched the Bingo, a compact SUV for $8,000. The playbook scales. Build the cheapest viable EV. Flood the market. Use volume to drive battery costs down. Then build the next tier up. In 2024, Chinese automakers are exporting. BYD is opening dealerships in Thailand, Brazil, and Mexico. The BYD Seagull, Dolphin, Atto 3, all under $15,000. The European Union announced tariffs on Chinese EVs to slow the flood. The United States is considering the same. General Motors, the company that owns 44% of the phenomenon that started it all, is lobbying Congress to keep Chinese cars out of America. A farmer's son in Liuzhou asked what a scooter rider needed in a car. The answer was 75 miles of range, a roof, and a price that didn't require a loan. He built exactly that. It sold 1.1 million units. It made LFP batteries the industry standard. It brought an entire generation into electric vehicles at the bottom of the market. It proved that the EV race was never about who built the best car. It was about who understood the customer no one else was designing for. The West designed electric cars for people who already owned cars. China designed electric cars for people who didn't. That decision, made in 2019 in a city most Americans couldn't find on a map, decided the future of the automotive industry. General Motors had a front row seat. They cashed the checks, and they made sure no American ever got the chance to buy one. The future of driving wasn't decided in Detroit or Palo Alto. It was decided in Liuzhou, when a company asked a question the rest of the industry refused to with. What does someone without a car actually need? The answer was a $4,500 box on wheels with 75 miles of range. And the West is still pretending that's not a real car. The car industry just got rewritten, and the company that did it has a GM logo on the door.